Randy Couture, Captain America himself, but make it gritty. Randy was never the scariest guy in the room on paper. He didn't have Silva's flash or Jones' freakish gifts. What he had was fatherly toughness that felt like he should be grilling burgers, not breaking jaws. And yet, he weaponized that. He was 40 years old, bald, and still taking down monsters half his age. He didn't just win fights, he aged like wine soaked in motor oil. The fear with Couture wasn't a single skill, it was that he simply refused to be reasonable about the laws of biology. He walked into cages against giants like Tim Sylvia and flipped the script. He was living proof that grit and wrestling fundamentals could still beat evolution. And there's nothing scarier than a veteran who knows every trick, every grind, and still has the cardio to drown you. Fighting Randy was like fighting inevitability in dad form, an unstoppable, stubborn, terrifying dad. Demetrious Johnson. Mighty Mouse is the final boss of technique, shrink-wrapped into 125 pounds of nightmare fuel. People thought his size made him harmless, like some action figure you'd leave on your desk. Wrong. Watching DJ fight is like watching a cheat code come alive. He didn't just beat people, he fast-forwarded the sport. Suplex into armbar? Sure, why not? Just invent new finishing moves mid-fight. Every transition, every scramble, every microsecond of chaos, he was 2 steps ahead, humming a tune while rearranging your joints. The dark joke of Demetrious Johnson is this: he was too good for his own fame. Casuals ignored him, but fighters whispered his name like a bedtime story gone wrong. Mighty Mouse isn't feared because of brutality, he's feared because he represents what happens when someone maximizes every variable in martial arts. That's not a fighter. That's inevitability with gloves on. Georges St-Pierre. GSP is a polite Canadian assassin wrapped in the body of a Marvel superhero. He'd bow, smile, and then take you down 5 times in a row like it was just cardio day at the gym. Imagine being ragdolled by someone who thanks you for your effort afterward. That's psychological torture. He wasn't just feared because he could choke you unconscious, he was feared because he'd erase you with strategy so clean it felt surgical. Every jab was a math equation, every takedown a solved puzzle. And here's the kicker, he made it boring. Not to watch, no, boring for his opponents, because the hopelessness of not having a single answer to anything he did was worse than pain. GSP didn't make you bleed, he made you question if you were even meant to be in the cage. His fights were existential crises disguised as title defenses. Fedor Emelianenko. Fedor is the Grim Reaper in a pair of oversized gloves, wrapped in the fashion sense of a man who just got off work at a Russian steel mill. No walkouts with fire, no theatrics. He'd trudge in wearing a plain hoodie, looking like he'd rather be fixing an engine. And then, he'd detonate on people with the fury of a collapsing star. Fedor was terrifying because he looked normal. No veins popping, no trash talk, just this quiet man with dead eyes who would then throw hands like he was trying to erase you from existence. He combined the speed of a welterweight with the power of a truck collision, and somehow he never lost his poker face. That blank stare was worse than 1,000 stare-downs. It said, I am already imagining your funeral. Watching Fedor fight wasn't sport, it was witnessing inevitability wrapped in silence. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Khabib is one of the most dominant wrestlers in the history of mixed martial arts. But that sentence feels like describing a shark is kind of wet. Khabib wasn't a fighter, he was a gravitational force with a beard. Once he got his hands on you, your options narrowed down to suffocate slowly against the fence or drown in the middle of the mat. He'd talk to you while beating you up, talk to you, telling you to quit, telling your corner to save you, as if humiliation was part of the training package. He never lost, not even close. Undefeated records usually feel padded, but Khabib's was a granite tombstone. The fear with him wasn't just his strength, it was inevitability. You knew what he was going to do, he knew what he was going to do, and you still couldn't stop it. Fighting Khabib was like being told the ending of a horror movie in advance, but you had to watch anyway. Kamaru Usman. The Nigerian nightmare is exactly what the nickname says, a slow, creeping, suffocating dream you can't wake up from. Usman didn't explode out of the gate, he wore you down, mile by mile, breath by breath, until the only sound left was your lungs screaming for help. His clinch game was like being stuck in a malfunctioning elevator with no way out. He had power, yes, but it wasn't just knockouts that broke people, it was the grind. Watching Usman was like watching a hydraulic press slowly crush steel beams, boring until you realize it's unstoppable. And just Just when fighters started praying for decisions, he went and knocked out Jorge Masvidal so brutally it looked like Masvidal's soul hit the eject button. That's the nightmare, thinking you're safe from the grind, only to realize he can erase you in an instant. Usman didn't just beat opponents, he rewrote their confidence. Anderson Silva. The Spider is not a man, he's a glitch in the matrix that somehow got athletic commission approval. Anderson didn't fight like he was in a cage, he fought like he was performing jazz. Hands down, chin up, dodging punches with head movement that looked animated. The fear wasn't in his power, it was in the realization that he knew you better than you knew yourself within 30 seconds of the first round. He'd dance, taunt, lean against the cage, and still land strikes like Zeus tossing lightning bolts for fun. Watching Silva dismantle Forrest Griffin was like watching an artist vandalize a museum painting with a better version. The scariest part? He made violence look beautiful. That's not normal. That's alien behavior. Fighters didn't lose to Anderson Silva, they lost to the realization that combat had ascended into performance art, and they weren't invited. Jon Jones. Jon Jones is the human embodiment of chaos theory dressed in 4-ounce gloves. He didn't just walk into the octagon, he crawled in on all fours, like some demon freshly hatched out of a nightmare, and then turned the fight into performance art mixed with street violence. Watching Jones fight is like watching a genius cheat at life in real time. Spinning elbows from nowhere, oblique kicks that make knees sound like bubble wrap popping, and a reach advantage that felt like God's inside joke. He's the fighter that forced every other fighter to suddenly reconsider their career path. Jones wasn't feared just because he could beat you, he was feared because he'd beat you creatively. And creativity and violence? That's terrifying. His only real opponent was his own reckless brain, and yet somehow, that chaos only added to the legend. Jones didn't fight men, he dismantled belief systems.